Howdy, y'all. This is Kyle Abbott, the official court jester of Toneway Productions. We are here to talk about family music with Luke Abbott, my brother. And here he is.
Thanks, Kyle. Specifically, what we're talking about are instruments for kids. So if you've got a youngin'...
How about a good morning?
Good morning.
Good morning, Luke.
And we're talking about stringed instruments, you know, those instruments of this mountain music. Of course, if you got a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, you know, give them an egg shaker or something, or just have them strum anything, and that's something. But we're talking about things that will really fit into the mountain music sort of thing. Something that you can share with your children and also make it easy for them to participate and contribute to the music at home. So let's look at a few instruments. First up, we've got the fiddle. Now this is probably the most, you can do the most at such a young age because they make these fiddles in 3/4 size, half size, quarter size, all the way down to 16th size and I think 32nd size, which is about that big. And here's a picture of me playing a 16th size fiddle, so you can see how small it is. This is about for a 3 or 4-year-old, and I was just borrowing it. And the fiddle is great because it's only got 4 strings, and it's actually, it's hard to explain, but it's very easy to get a sense of music and to connect what you're doing as a child, what a child is doing with the sounds that are coming out. And it's a great way to sort of build your ear up and such, which is why a lot of in a lot of countries they start the kids off with fiddle, and it has a reputation, of course, for this. It's not always that bad, but that's something where as a parent you have to be sort of, you know, set your ideals for how it's supposed to sound aside and just let the child experiment. And the other thing that can work well are a fiddle mute or a silencer. It fits on the bridge and it dampens the vibrations. And we lost our fiddle silencer because I used to use it when I was 10 or 11 learning the fiddle. I had no sense of being quiet and I just played loud all the time. And it actually hurt my ears, so I used fiddle mutes. And
which is why it seems anytime I say, "Hey Luke, clean your dishes," he can't hear me, so it's gotten a little deaf in certain situations.
Residual, yeah. Now, clothespins also work in a pinch because they just deaden the vibrations. Now, also very important is tape. You don't want your kid to have to always be worrying about where those frets are, so mark them with tape. You can either use electrician's tape or special fiddle tape that they make, and the instructions for this are in our book. And initially, just the 2nd and 5th frets is all they need because they're picking their songs are just going to be on those frets. Later on, you can put tape for. Later on, you can put tape for all the frets that they need, you know, as they start using more frets. But initially, just 2 frets. And let's see, what else? Shoulder rest. Make sure to explore this possibility if it's uncomfortable for them, because this is helpful for a lot of kids, and you can do stuff like that. A rolled-up towel works well as well.
A baby bottle if you're starting really young.
Well, yeah, I don't know about that. And so that's the fiddle. You know, it's only really a melody instrument. All you can do rhythmically is really do just chop. But that's great for a kid because they can experiment with melodies and link it up with their singing, and you can supply the rhythm with, say, a guitar, and then you've got a nice little combination there. So fiddle is really great at ages starting even as young as 5, although don't expect to have high, you know, musical.
And if they're 5 or below, have an adult supervision because the bow is chokeable.
Oh, by the way, this is a half-size bow and a full-size fiddle. And at the age of when I was 11 or 12 or 13 or whatever, I used a full-size fiddle, but I wasn't comfortable with the full-size bow, so I kept using a half-size bow, and that was helpful to me. My dad still uses a half-size bow, so just saying.
Saves money. Buy one bow and cut it in half.
This is not classical music that you're teaching your kid. You want your kid to be able to participate with you. And so I'll just also stick out a warning. Don't listen to any classical musical teachers that tell you not to.
But listening to classical music is fine.
Hey, let me finish. Anyone who tells you not to use tape for whatever reason that you're not helping them build their ear, they're all approaching it from the wrong angle. You want to make it easy for the kid so that they feel success and they're able to make good music. And as time goes on, just as with me and Kyle and everyone else, the fingers will learn where the tape is, and then the tape will fall off and you'll be fine.
It makes it easier for the kid, but imagine if your kid's able to play with great classical artists like Stravinsky. Imagine how much easier that'll be in supporting your old age.
Well, 1 in 10,000, but anyway.
I hope Stravinsky is a real person.
Sounds good. Instrument number 2 is the mandolin. And this is the mandolin. This is the very instrument that Kyle started out as a 7-year-old. And it's nice and small, so with someone with little hands can play. All the basic chords are only 2 fingers. And there's another chord there. So there's really only 4 strings if you think about these strings, because they're tuned the same. They're in pairs. So what you can actually do is remove one of the strings in each pair, and then you've only got 4 strings to deal with, and it just makes it less intimidating and easier to press down the strings. Make sure to put on light strings. They'll be easier for the kids to press down. And also make sure the action, see, the action means how high the strings are off the fret. So you can see this. These are pretty easy to press down. And this was a relatively cheap instrument. You know, it doesn't sound that great, but it's easy to play. And that is the only thing that's really important for a youngster learning, or any beginner really. Don't worry about how the instrument sounds, if it's got that nice ring or whatever. As long as it's easy to play, it stays in tune, and it frets properly, like the bridge is in the right place and everything like that.
However, if it has high action, that means your child's fingers will be getting stronger and much better at the thumb wrestling competitions.
You don't use your thumb to play the instrument.
Ah, that's right.
Finally, capo. You can stick it on, and then your kid can play in different keys with the same chords. So just keep that as an option, using the capo. This is a banjo capo, so it's a little smaller. It fits just perfectly. Next, we have the ukulele. This is a baritone size, and the baritone is tuned the same as the last 4 strings of the guitar. So it's like a guitar, except you don't have to worry about these 2 big strings, the bass strings. So the chords are a lot easier. There's a G chord, there's a C chord, there's a D chord, although you can play it just like that with 2 fingers. Here's an A chord, A7 chord, whatever. So it's easy. The strings are really easy to press down. You don't need a pick, you just use your hands. Great for, instrument to get started on, the ukulele. You can also use a capo. One thing about this instrument is that the low string down here, a D on a baritone size, it's often tuned an octave higher, so it sounds like this. My dog has fleas. That's the classic ukulele sound. You can play chords just fine with this, but if your kid goes to pick out the melody, which they will probably want to do much sooner than you expect and be much more successful than you might expect, at their own pace, of course, you never know. Every kid is different. You're going to need to give them a low string, because otherwise they'll go to use that string and it'll be in the wrong octave and it just won't sound good. So you can replace that string with a low string, and then it has that low sound, and it's just the same as the guitar. And then also, when your kid is ready to graduate to a larger instrument, they can pick up one of these guitars and they can apply what they've learned to that instrument. So let's talk about guitar. The guitar is pretty big, so you probably a kid needs to be 8 or 9 or something like that before they're big enough to use the guitar. There are smaller guitars though. Take a look at this. See, this guitar is about 3 inches shorter, the strings, than a normal guitar. So this is a smaller guitar, good for a little kid. And this is also like a cheap model made in China, but that's also good for a kid too, because you don't have to worry about how it sounds. It's just easy to play.
The most important thing is the color.
Yeah, the color is great too. A kid will just eat up the blue.
Hopefully not. Adult supervision. It probably has lead.
The chords are difficult because they're so big. But again, what you can do is just remove these top 2 strings, and then you've got a 4-string instrument, just like the uke. Basically, you've just got a big uke with an extra wide neck. What my dad used to do, actually, is he would take guitars and cut them down so that he'd make them into a 4-string instrument. Drill holes into the top so that they could be hung up. Got pretty handy, man, and these are cheap instruments, but good to start out on. So now I can use the same uke chords. Pretty easy. All right. Now, to make it even easier for the guitar, you can open tune it. So if I take this from standard tuning, I lower this last string down 2 frets. Now we've got D, G, B, D. Those are the strings. It's open. It's a chord, right, from the get-go. So now I can bar the strings with my hands, and I can make all the chords. I can also play chords down here, and we'll make something available that shows the chords. But the chords are very easy. The two finger chords for your 1, 4, and 5. 1, 4, 1, 5, 1. It's really only good for one key. It kind of sticks it in one key. So this is the key of G right now. So it's really only good for singing songs in the key of G. But in the beginning, you don't really have to worry about getting the key just right for your vocal range. It's more important to just start, and the kid's not going to matter so much. Often makes it a lot smoother to just keep them in one key and let them get used to playing in that one key. Although you could even use a capo to change that key a little bit, although that might be confusing for the kids. So I don't know. But there you go. That's one tuning. Then if you tune it this way, you've got an open D chord. And again, you've got easy 1, 4, 1, 5 chords. Then another option is to take a full-size guitar and tune it open. This is open G tuning. Got a really nice open sound. Now the bar chords are probably going to be difficult because the 6 strings is going to sound more like this. But you can actually, you've got these open chords. Sorry, what is it? So they're not all perfect chords, but they sound good. And the great thing about them is that even if you just do 1 string at a time, I'll use this. Okay.
No, carry on.
Even if you're doing 1 string at a time or 2 strings, the full chord might be, I have to do that. But if you just do 1 string or 2 strings, it still sounds good. So it's got that sort of gradation. You start them with 1 finger or 2 fingers, and then later they can use 3 fingers and kind of build from there. It gives them a place to grow. And they can play melodies, of course. For the G, they can use it's just like a banjo and a dobro. Oh, I'll get to that in a minute. Let's see. This guitar is tuned to open D. The chords. There's 4, 1, 5. So it's not, it's an imperfect chord, but I think it sounds really good in the context of the song.
Luke, I think the audience would appreciate right now if you compose a song right now with those chords you just used.
There's a flea on a log, and I ain't got my dog. How will I get him? I know. I'll get me a jar and I'll fill it up with air. That's how I'll get him. I know. I'm not a songwriter, but anyway, there you go. 3 chords. Make up a song. Have your kids make up songs. Kids are usually much better songwriters than I am.
He tries.
I try. Finally, we've got the banjo. And banjo is also open-tuned. You can play the chords like this, or you can learn chords down here, pick melodies. The main problem with the banjo is that it's big, it's heavy, and generally I find 9, 10 years of age is when kids start to get big enough to play the banjo. Before that, they're just like, it's just too big for them. And it's also really loud when a kid plays it, that wasn't even with picks. One thing you could do to make it softer is stuff something in the back here. Or take off the resonator if there is one and stuff things. I used to play with
Maybe another child.
Ooh, what?
Nothing.
Oh, God. That's the banjo. The dobro is also open-tuned, but that's also a big instrument, and it uses the bar. That could make it easier for some kids, and could also make it more frustrating trying to find the right place, because there's no frets, and there's really no tape, because the bar could go anywhere. And when I was growing up, we didn't have a dobro, but what my dad did was he raised the strings off the frets a little bit, and then there's a video of me doing this when I was like 3, and I'm not really doing anything, but you can use a little slide thing like this, or some sort of bar. Make the chorus that way. So that's something to play with.
Hey Luke,
yeah.
I think the audience right now would love to see a video of you when you were 3.
Okay, roll it. There you have it. Let us know if you have any comments or suggestions or questions. As always, if your kid is really drawn to a particular instrument, like they're always watching the fiddle and they want to do the fiddle, that's really great. I would say encourage that, because if the kid is interested in something and they stick with it, they will get music out of it no matter what it is. So let their interest guide them. And the more instruments they play with, the better, because the instruments all help each other out. And they may get frustrated with one instrument, but then go pick up another instrument. That's great. I would say, of course, don't feel you have to limit yourself to these instruments. If you have a harmonica around, they want to play around with a harmonica. I did that as a kid, and recorder, whatever. But these instruments are, of course, fit in more with the mountain music style, which, as we explained in the article, really has a lot of depth to it and room to grow, so that as your kids get older and older, they're not, instead of just keeping playing by themselves on their ocarina, they can actually jam with the parents and eventually probably get better than the parents, and then headline their own family band with you guys. Hopefully they will be appreciative of you having music and not replace you with more talented musicians. You know what I mean? Okay. Bye.
Bye, Luke.
Bye.
Let's see what Papa's doing. Okay. And that's what he's doing. Would you like to hear about my